defendant who is highly unlikable. And yet, despite that, they are trying to poke holes in these witness testimonies, suggesting that maybe, they were fed information. Maybe their memories aren't so accurate, and maybe their statements about the defendant are not in line with what they said back in the day. And what did you think of that cross?
I thought that was excellent. This is exactly the kind of cross you want to have on this witness. Now, ultimately, you've snuck in information. You've snuck in, words, verbiage from this witness about how likable the defendant is. That's excellent. Not only that, but you're also attacking how well she remembers things from her own, from her own mouth, from her own voice, from her own tone. She's the one who's hesitant about what she maybe recalls, what she doesn't recall. And here on the stand today, while she's in court, very defensive. Right? She's like, no, I'm testifying accurately now. And so it's exactly the kind of cross you want to have from a defense standpoint. When she's so blatantly pointing the finger and she's so adamant about how she feels and what she remembers at the time, you've brought in just the information to be able to show, one, maybe we don't fully trust all of what you have to say. We have credibility issues. But two, you're actually saying quite the contrary of what you've said before, to the prosecutor, to investigators. So it's an excellent cross from a defense standpoint.
Here's where I struggle. As effective as this cross is, as effective as they try to establish that Susan Berman might not have been responsible or involved in what happened to Kathy, as much as they try to point to the idea that Robert Durst had nothing to do with Kathy's disappearance, what I am confronted with was the admission of the defense that Robert Durst was there, that he saw Susan Berman's body, he freaked out, he ran away, and then he wrote that cadaver note, a note which he had said countless times in the past he did not write, and then if I recall correctly, he said at one point, the only person who wrote that note had to have been the killer. He writes this note, sends it to police. I'm as much as I think about that, I can't help forget that that is their theory, that he ran, that he saw the body and he ran. Is the jury going to buy that? In any circumstance, would the jury buy that? Because how many times would somebody have called 911?
Right. Not only that, you have to remember he's been acquitted of dismembering a body before and is being accused of making another one disappear. So ultimately, it doesn't sound very in line with the Robert Durst that that this prosecution is alleging he is. It's a very different MO. It's a very different way that he has dealt with his alleged victim here. And the defense should capitalize on that, right? Showing the differences. It's almost like a fingerprint. That's what an MO is really all about. It's the closest that you're going to get to arguing circumstantial evidence for being actual fact evidence. So really, it's quite the timeline as to how we've led to this homicide, and certainly very different. There's a lot of differentiating factors between all the other alleged prior bad acts on this defendant.
So we have more to talk about when it comes to Robert Durst, clearly, including the fact of his now physical condition, which became a major issue this past week, where he was actually hospitalized, but this trial is continuing. We're going to talk about that on the other side. Stay with us.